I just had to get our streaming service up and running on LinkedIn, but thanks if you're still here. I appreciate you standing by. So thank you for joining the marketing show. My name is Matthew Kilmurry, founder and CEO of apartmentgeofencing.com and hotelgeofencing.com, and I'm your host. And joining us today is Wendy Coplen, who I've known for more than a decade. Can't believe it's been that long. I first met Wendy during my time at AvalonBay. Wendy initially joined AVB as part of the investments team in 2009, making her way into the marketing group in 2011, where she served as a marketing manager supporting the regional marketing and branding efforts for the Northeast portfolio, along with the marketing onboarding for the Archstone asset transition. That was a crazy time.
That was a crazy time.
That was a crazy time. She then moved into a senior marketing manager role, overseeing lease-up and acquisition and disposition marketing efforts at the national level. In early 2022, Wendy transitioned to Central as the director of community marketing and is now marketing director of account management for Bell Partners. Wendy has deep knowledge in property marketing across REITs, multiple brands, and now third-party management. It's a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Matthew. Happy to be here.
Well, let's dig in. You've been at Bell now for about 9 months. Can you give us a bit of a background on the current marketing structure that's in place?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So the current marketing structure that we have in place now was initially formulated way back before I joined. So as much as I would like to take credit for it, I cannot, but very appreciative of those that, kind of concepted out where we were going to go in terms of the marketing structure, not only because of, I think, the efficiency that it has today, but also because it's one of the reasons that I'm here today. My role having been part of kind of that overhaul and really understanding from a client point of view, what made the most sense in terms of our marketing support roles and functions. And so at the time that the groundwork was really laid out for the reorg of our team, we were in kind of a 2-branch approach, which I think is pretty common for a lot of multifamily marketing units. So we had, on one side, our creative services, so our digital hub, branding, reputation, a lot of subject matter areas. And then on our other side, we had what we called our marketing operations team, or, what some other companies would call property marketing, community marketing, essentially your account management function, right? So we had those 2 branches. And the leadership team at that time really took a step back and tried to understand the level of support that we were serving, not only to our internal clients, but also to our third-party clients, which were vast and are still vast. And we have, some smaller third-party ownership groups. We have some larger ownership groups that we manage, a larger portfolio of properties for that there are specific nuances that require a specific level of support. And so, you have those complexities, but then along with those, you have your different product types that you're supporting, right? So you have your stabilized portfolio. You also have assets that are moving in and out of the portfolio in terms of acquisitions and dispositions. And then you have lease-ups. And so looking at all of these different facets, taking a step back, we really landed on more of a 3-branch approach. So we still have, our creative services hub, which hasn't changed much, except that we have recently added a UX website manager, and we're thrilled to have him on board. He actually started with us earlier this week, and he was actually the last role that we filled as part of this build out. And then we have a 2-branch approach to our account management function. So we have our stabilized arm, which is divided by region. So here at Bell, we have 3 SVPs of operations. They're all regional. And so we thought it made sense to align our marketing functions to support up into each of those similar regions for operations, so that there was no confusion about who that stabilized support lead would be. And then on the other side of account management, we have what we affectionately call here in Bell as our LL&T marketing arm, which stands for lease-ups, large ownerships, and transitions. So those are really any assets that require some of that additional hand-holding support We have a team dedicated to our lease-up function, a team dedicated to transition, so acquisitions coming into the portfolio and dispositions moving out, and then a marketing manager that's overseeing large ownership efforts that are, specific to a couple of large ownership groups, like I mentioned before, that just require a little bit of that extra white glove service. So that's where we are today, and it's taken us some time to get here, but really excited to be here.
I really love that idea of organizing and thinking around not just product type, but service level.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a difference in terms of the types of the service level that ownership groups are going to require. And sometimes just saying, oh, well, you're in the stabilized group doesn't really do justice for that particular ownership group. So I really love that you've done it.
Right. And interestingly, I think you hit the nail on the head, Matthew, in the assessment of that. We have several ownership groups that span those regions, right? So even though their direct lead on the operations side is someone regionally, the level of marketing support that we want to ensure that we're providing is across the board nationally. So that was really important to us in looking at the build out of that stabilized team and kind of in creating sort of our internal SLAs or service level agreements to our operations team and externally to those owners.
So one of your initial responsibilities was supporting this build out, right, of the new marketing account management team structure. So how did you approach creating this best in class team so that you could hit the ground running?
Yeah. So when I joined back in June, there were 4 folks that were onboarding the same time that I was joining, just in marketing. And so it was, and since then we've had several more onboardings, and now here we are in the middle of March 2024. So the best words that I can use to describe this process are slow and steady. And I think we've taken a thoughtful approach, but we haven't attempted to jump right in, because there is a little bit of trial and error, right? When you have a team that has the more tenured folks, and then you have, a subset of new associates onboarding, I think you really need to take a lot of care and be thoughtful in ensuring that one team mentality. And, in addition to that, it was important for us to kind of preface what the roles and responsibilities, not only of each arm, but also of each person on that arm, was responsible for, and how we would collaborate together on those roles and responsibilities. So what might be shared throughout each of our 3 arms, and what is wholly owned in one particular branch. And so we've taken that slow and steady approach and taken a lot of care with onboarding. Onboarding is interesting post-pandemic because, like you, Matthew, at apartment geofencing, I think you all are remote. So your onboarding, is probably different than, a team that's fully built out at, headquarters, where everyone's reporting into headquarters, or someone on, a hybrid schedule. Here at Bell, if you're a corporate associate, the expectation is that you're reporting into one of our regional offices. So marketing team is dispersed throughout several regional offices. So I'm here in Alexandria, Virginia, with a few folks. We have some of the marketing team down in Raleigh, some in Charlotte, some out in Denver. And so it was important for us, as folks were onboarding, to really have that collaboration, that sense of collaboration, that sense of really being supported. And so we wanted to take our time with that. And I think the main reason that we really wanted to take our time with that is because as we were kind of jumping into the roles and responsibilities on our side, Bell is also setting their strategy, their 5-year roadmap for a lot of what are going to be the core initiatives and goals that marketing will be involved with. And so, we wanted to set ourselves up for success and saying, okay, so for some of these new roles that are coming down the pike, yeah, these are what we think are going to be their core functions. But, kind of real world example of this, we hired a large ownership marketing manager, and we hired someone from the agency side, which was a terrific fit because she was supporting a multifamily group on the agency side that had about 150 assets. She was very used to working with them at the property level. And so her expertise aligned very well with supporting this large owner for which we manage about 70 of their properties. But in doing so, Bell started rolling out some corporate goals related to, which I'm sure many other of our industry partners are too, centralization, customer experience, these sorts of areas. And so we've actually been able to pull her, our core function is supporting large ownership, but top of mind for them is also centralization and customer experience. So we'll leverage her as she's supporting that large owner and take away those findings and leverage them to what we're doing at Bell. So that's really the hope is figuring out kind of that sweet spot where there is some, I think, fluidity in what that core role is for the person, but where they can also add value, which is a win for them and for us.
I think it's smart that you're taking such a disciplined approach, because I've seen this before. The marketing lead, it becomes invaluable and people lean on them. So not only like the ownership groups, like when they think marketing, they think this person, but also on the operations side, this is, don't take this person away from me, right? And so you can make transitions and move things around, but like the last thing you want to do is like do that twice in 1 year.
Exactly.
And so that's smart, kind of coming in a disciplined way and making sure that, like the changes that you're going to make in terms of the service level that you're providing by product type, that it's, it's thoughtful and it's, it's going to stick around for a while, because people are willing to change, but maybe just once.
Right. And hopefully some of those findings are transferable and you're not, you're making a change, but you're, I think, ideally, gaining some valuable lessons learned and then able to repurpose those elsewhere.
Right. Because we here at Apartment JFS, we have dedicated account reps.
Mm-hmm.
Our clients really learn to lean on these folks. And we've been looking at ways to kind of shift clients around so that we can have people who specialize in different product types as well, so that their expertise can kind of be shared. But we're very cognizant of when we move to a new dedicated rep, it creates some ripple effects.
It does, but you also have the advantage. I mean, you have hospitality, you have multifamily. There, we all know there are a lot of transferable skills and I think learnings between those two. So I think, your strategy does make a lot of sense.
So let's talk about some of the best practices that you've learned already, for hiring the right candidate in that role. That's always kind of the hardest piece. How do you find and hire the right candidate?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I think for us, one of the lessons learned is just transparency from the onset. I mean, even down to the job description. So salary transparency. I know that's a hot topic right now, but I mean, I think if you can have alignment from the start, even down to that job posting of what's required of that candidate, you're not wasting anyone's time, right? You're not wasting the company's time. You're not wasting their time in terms of that salary transparency, or even in, workplace obligations. So, if you're on a hybrid schedule, just spell it out in the job description, spell out the number of days a week, the expectation is.
Hybrid means different things now.
It totally does. And, I've heard of companies that have a hybrid schedule. And so there's a required day of week that folks need to be in the office versus a hybrid schedule of, we're a little bit more flexible, you choose your days. So I think probably the more detail you can give there, you'll find success in candidates that can align to whatever those outcomes are. And then we were fortunate at Bell to have a dedicated talent acquisition manager that we worked with and on all of these roles. And so we really worked closely with her, understanding that there were, she's more of a generalist. So she hears marketing and she's like, great, like here are my pre-screen questions that I have for marketing. And, then I'll send these resumes your way. Well, when you're looking at the 3 different arms and the 3 different areas of expertise that these roles need to have, it becomes a bit more complicated than that. So we started working with her on really some more probing, detailed questions that she could ask on her end, so that by the time they were coming to us, we were getting really some more of those qualified candidates for each role, which was super helpful for our assignment in terms of just time savings.
Yeah, working with that HR specialist too. So the screening is more than just, those questions. Like, did you see the salary requirement? Can you do hybrid? Like, just check boxes and move them on is so key, and it's time consuming, but it's worth the effort.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And she, it could be simple. Things as simple as, for our marketing manager on our stabilized side, it was important to us that they did have that experience managing a larger portfolio, because the way that these division lines work regionally, our stabilized marketing managers do have a broader portfolio. So we didn't want someone to come in and feel extremely overwhelmed about the level of service that was required to support these portfolios. So it was, it could be as simple as, tell me a little bit more about the size of the portfolio that you've been supporting and the level of service, that sort of thing. But it did allow, in that initial screening, that talent acquisition manager to be able to, hone in on some details like that.
And so it goes from the talent acquisition manager. Now you're looking at all these resumes. What are the core strengths that you're looking for these different roles?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely role dependent, as you know, in multifamily. I mean, there are some roles that do require the multifamily background. It was important for us at the manager level to have some sort of multifamily background, just because there are so many nuances in our industry. But at the associate level, for example, a little bit more of an entry level role, we were, really looking for someone that didn't necessarily have that multifamily experience, but someone that could really jump right in, was willing to learn. I mean, as an example, we hired actually our first marketing associate on the team through LinkedIn messaging. Oh. And she was a recent college grad. She graduated from the same school that our VP of marketing went to, and she reached out to the VP of marketing through LinkedIn message, introduced herself. She was hungry for a role. She was graduating from college, and she happened to be based in Charlotte, where we were hiring out of at the time, one of our regional offices. And and she got the role. And the idea behind that is that someone that's hungry, someone that, is proactive, if they, in theory are that way in their job search, they will also be that way once they're in the role, and have, kind of that curiosity and that proactive attribute that will help them succeed. So, just a real world example there of something that we would look for at the associate level that's been successful for us, and I'm sure for others too.
I think those two things that you just mentioned as like core strengths are so key in multifamily, which is one, curiosity, because why is the data showing this? And this is weird. We've got 30 leads but one tour. Like, something changed. What's going on here? It's like you have to put your detective hat on so many different times.
Yeah.
And like proactiveness. I feel like we are kind of in hospitality, right? Like we're supposed to be providing homes for our residents, and in hospitality you want to be proactive, and our ownership groups expect that. They don't want to be the ones to say what's going on here, where our projected occupancy is dipping. They want to hear from us and say, hey, you may notice in the report that's going to come out today that you're seeing a dip in projected occupancy. Here's what we already have in place. And it's just like that proactiveness goes a mile in this industry. It really does.
Yeah.
One of the things that we started doing here was, we've got our 6 core values, and we just mixed it into our process, where we ask all candidates to look at the core values and explain to us in writing and how they exemplify that core value in their personal and professional life. And
I love that.
It's a quick question, we only usually get a few sentences, but half the people don't do it. So that's like, half the resumes I don't have to look
right.
at.
You're exactly right.
And
yeah,
then,
I mean, it happens.
Yep. And then you can tell the ones that just kind of like, just kind of answer it, and then you've got the last bit where one of the values resonated with them. They were excited to talk about it. It's like, okay, the potential culture match. And then with that, how is their writing? And you can tell so much about a person by how they articulate in their writing.
It's so funny you mentioned that. That was the next thing that I was going to touch on. I think in you get to that point where you have, three killer candidates and you're like, okay, we've got the three. They've gone through the one-on-one interview. They've gone through a panel interview. How do we really figure out who the top tier candidate's going to be here? And I think that exercise is a terrific one because you get kind of the written, and we've done that on our side too, even in terms of if it's a manager level coming in and they don't have any BI data, they don't have any dashboard data, but it's like, okay, here's a property, take this property, go check it out on all the mediums, and like, what is your intuition telling you? Like, if you were to analyze this asset without any data, what are your thoughts? And you're getting their critical thinking skills that way. Right. You're getting their written skills that way. Yeah, I think it's a terrific approach.
Yeah, in some ways, their suggestions don't matter as much as like the thinking behind it in the actual writing. Yeah, that's great. So last question for you. So now you've onboarded some new associates, you've got some new people in there. How do you empower them to excel in these new positions so that you set them up for success?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because the first one I would say kind of goes back to the curiosity. And I think this is a mantra that I actually adopted way back when you and I were working together at Avalon. But I remember we were in, I think, a team building meeting, building out kind of our goals and strategies for the next year. And we had a paper and we had, a million things on the paper, and someone just stepped back and they said, why are we doing it this way? Why are we even doing this? Is there a better way that we could be doing this? And so I always like to empower, our associates to think that way, just because we currently at Bell are doing something this way, that doesn't mean, that's the way that it should be done, or, there likely is a more efficient way to do it. And, raise your hand. Like we love that. We applaud that. But I think, more traditionally, our company, Bell itself, I think prides itself on having, a number of learning and development opportunities, training opportunities that are open to our entire associate pool. So we just did a 2 days presentation skills workshop that was open to anyone in person. So a subset of folks went to that. We have something called Bell U, so Bell University, that has a ton of L&D initiatives. Anyone can take training at any time. Obviously, industry networking. So here in marketing specifically, I mean, there's a ton, as you know. So we always, like our folks to join anything, especially at the regional level. And then industry events. I mean, we would love to send everyone to AIM every year, obviously, with the purse strings being tight, probably not going to happen. But I think even, Matthew, what you're doing now with Multifamily Marketing East is, a huge win for a lot of us in the industry, because that's an opportunity for, folks here at Bell and our other industry peers to have the opportunity to kind of do some of that peer-to-peer networking, some of the discussions, roundtable discussions that they don't get to dive into every day. So all of those things.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that on to the, talking about the industry events and getting peers together, I feel like one day of that is worth like 6 months of like work experience. Like you see people kind of level up. It's like a maturity thing. It's just kind of, problem solving. Like maybe it comes to confidence, so because we have these people that we bring into multifamily, there's all this jargon, there's all these like ownership groups and who do they own and what, and it can be like really intimidating. And it takes people a few years to like have the swagger where they feel confident, and you kind of see that shift around like the 2-3 year mark. And if you can get associates and senior coordinators and managers through that a little bit faster, the best way to do that is put them with industry peers, and they're gonna, we kind of help each other level up. And, to the folks listening today, check out multifamily.marketing. It'll take you to MME Multifamily Marketing East, which we're going to be launching in May of this year. So we're out of time. Thank you so much, Wendy, for being a guest today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all on LinkedIn. I hope you join me again. And until then, love the journey, my friends.